This the Brad and Memory Show. Yeah, this the Brad and Memory Show. Yeah, this the Brad and Memory Show. Yeah, this the Brad and Memory Show. In the field with my dogs, like the Sixers, we gon' ball. Wake up early in the morning, tune in anytime at all. All time, all season, don't believe in off seasons. Watch the Phillies, watch the Flyers, and the Eagles on the weekends. Yeah, this is not your ordinary radio show. Ain't just talking sports, we be talking about the culture. All across the globe, anything you wanna cover. This is for the fans, no room for our front runners. This the Brad and Memory Show. Yeah, this the Brad and Memory Show. Yeah, this the Brad and Memory Show. Yeah, this the Brad and Memory Show. Yeah. You know the vibes.
Yes, sir. You know the vibes. Brad Memory Show. Marcus Brad. I'm Justin Emery.
Yo.
So, listen, we're 9 days removed from Game 7 of the second round, Mother's Day, the Mother's Day massacre, if you want to call it, whatever you want to put a tag on it, whatever you want to label it. It was bad, and last week was kind of a situation where we're all kind of in mourning and going through grief and angry and all that stuff. But now, listen, we're 9 days removed. Is now what now? What now? Where does this team go from now? Now, a lot has happened since the Sixers lost that game. Some here, some nationally. You've seen a lot of things play out. There was a narrative out there, and listen, it was out there by me also. I'm not going to run away from it, that the winner of that Sixers-Celtics second-round matchup was going to be the NBA Finals. No one really thought that was possible for Miami Heat to beat either one of these teams, and you got to reconsider that now. Because what's happening really for me is that I feel a little better in the sense that I know this. I was angry because I thought the Sixers, were better than they really are. And it's really been exposed, especially in this Heat Celtics series, but even a little bit in the Nuggets Lakers series, that are just not as good as we thought they were. Especially the role players. And look no further than what's going on down in South Beach. There's a lot of talk about, the Heat culture and the way they do things. And it is very unique to most things you see in sports. It shouldn't be because, they get it right, but it is unique. The way they look for talent, the way they groom players, the way they coach. There was actually a really good article about Eric Spoelstra in The Athletic a couple of days ago about his motivation tactics, how it borders along lines of, he could be a little antagonistic. He'd get under your skin. He's very competitive. Like remember we saw the clip last year of Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler almost getting into a fist fight on the sidelines in the middle of a game. But what you learn, what we learn about that series matching up to what the Sixers have, is that the Sixers role players, even though their stars let them down Game 7, the role players are just not as good as we thought they were. You look at that game the other night with the Heat Celtics, where the Heat, blow them out. Gabe Vincent gives you 6 threes, scores almost 30. Caleb Martin gives you almost 20. These are undrafted NBA players that are giving you major minutes. Duncan Robinson is giving you big-time minutes. Max Strus. Those guys I just named are undrafted, and they're really good, really big pieces of the core of this Miami Heat squad. The Sixers don't have guys like that. Even though the Celtics are they're in the verge of getting swept. Look, even their role players, I would take Malcolm Brogdon over anybody coming off the Sixers bench. Derek White, who is a starter but comes off the bench too, I would take him off anybody come off their bench. They just don't have the pieces that we thought they did. Then you go out to the Western Conference, and this is an even more uncomfortable conversation. I'm watching the game last night and watching Nikola Jokic take the heart of that team by himself in the fourth quarter. You know, going to halftime, the Lakers are down. Lakers are up 15. LeBron scores 30 in the first half. Plays every minute in the first half to keep them in it. And in the second half, Jokic said, "Okay, listen, we want this over. It's got to be me. No one else really has tonight." Jamal Murray gave you a great game in Game 3. Pretty much the major reason why they won Game 3. You know, you got contributors from Porter Jr. and Kentavious Pope, all those guys. We'll get into those guys in a minute. But that fourth quarter was Jokic. Jokic scored, I think, 14 in the fourth quarter. He ends up with 30, 14, and 13. And, like the last minute, he took the ball and said, "You know what? Excuse me if he did. I got to score here. We got to win this game." And they win by 2. And I really hope, Joel Embiid was watching that performance, because there's a couple of things that you can't deny anymore. Number one, listen, Joe, you got the MVP. You got the MVP you wanted, but guess what? He's still playing, and he very well could be the Finals MVP, which is way more important. It's number one. Number two, you no longer can deny Nikola Jokic is a better basketball player than Joel Embiid. It's just that simple. And I hope that Joel Embiid was watching that game and watching how you close, watching what it looks like to see somebody actually go out there and close that game, because the Lakers played their asses off last night. They really did. They closeout games, as they talk about all the time, are the hardest games because teams are fighting for their lives. It's different when you're fighting for your life. And Lakers go up 15. LeBron looks like LeBron 2015. He scores 30, like I said, scores 30 in the first half. Plays every minute of the first half on a busted foot. And it would have been very easy for the Nuggets to say, "You know what? We're up 3-0. Let's just, we're fine. We'll just win this thing in Denver." It's very easy to think that way, but they didn't. And again, going back to the role player conversation with Miami, look at their role players. Look what they got going on. You got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who the Lakers, I still don't understand how in a million years you let him go and let him walk from that championship team of the bubble chip. I don't know how you let him walk, but that happened. So they got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope over there. They got Bruce Brown from the Nets, who's playing big minutes over there. Aaron Gordon, who's a great addition aside Jokic as a slasher, a guy that can finish around the rim runner, if you will, dunker spot, all that stuff, can hit an occasional three. You got Michael Porter Jr. also, who is he's a role player, but a guy that at any moment could be a third star with them. And then you got Jamal Murray, who is a star, to go along with Jokic. And you look at all these teams left, and you just see that Sixers don't have enough. And I go back to what Joel Embiid said, and listen, in real time when he said it, I was upset too. I know you guys were upset too, because Joel Embiid and James Harden didn't play well. So yes, when he said it needs to be more than me and James, it didn't come off great. And I took it wrong. I took it to heart also based on the performance they have. But if you look at where everything is played out now, and you're seeing the way everything has happened, everything has unfolded in the playoffs going forward, he's right. He's absolutely right. It doesn't mean we excuse his play and James Harden's play in Game 7, but he's right. You don't have enough. And I was standing on the mountaintop all season saying this team did have enough. I really did think that DeAnthony Melton, George Niang, Paul Reed, I really thought they'd be enough. But look at those names I just named. George Niang, DeAnthony Melton, Paul Reed. Compare them to Gabe Vincent. Compare them to Max Strus. Compare them to Caleb Martin. Compare them to Malcolm Brogdon. Compare them to Robert Williams. Compare them to Derek White. Compare them to Marcus Smart. Compare them to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Compare them to Bruce Brown. Let's go even the Lakers. Let's compare them to Austin Reeves. Compare them to Lonnie Walker. Compare them to Rui Hachimura. Compare them to Dennis Schroeder. Who are you taking? Are you taking that supporting cast or the Sixers supporting cast? We got to be honest with ourselves. We're very mad at Joel Embiid. We're very mad at James Harden. I get it. But we got to be honest about I'll be honest with ourselves, that this supporting cast just is not good enough. I always talk about when I talk about television shows, and you can have your star, and your star can be great, but if you can't have those subplots, you don't really have a show. Look at the greatest shows of all time. You got to have those sub characters, like Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld was the guy, but what's that show without Kramer? What's that show about George? What's that show about Elaine? Friends. There was an ensemble cast there, but they all were stars on that cast. But you can go to different plot lines at different times from different characters. Phoebe had a plot line. Joey had a plot line. Look at Martin. Martin might be my favorite sitcom of all time. What's Martin without Gina? What's Martin without Tommy? What's Martin without Cole? You got to have those casts. And the Sixers don't have that. And we got a major problem here with the supporting cast because, there's a lot of questions to be answered because, I look at, DeAnthony Melton after game 1, he disappeared. And that's the thing is that, when you have a good supporting cast, you don't have those type of problems. They're always going to be there. They're always going to be there to do what? Support. And, stars need to take over at the right times. And we obviously Joel Embiid needs to do that. And we need him to get better in that area. I don't know if James Harden's going to be back. Reports, Keith Von Page reporting that it's going to be Houston. If that's the case, then that's the case. But regardless of whatever it's going to be, whether Maxi's your second guy next year or not, you're going to have to do something to find those guys that can help you. And the Sixers don't have that. And that's really been the eye-opening thing for me in this past 9 days is watching the Eastern Conference Finals, watching the Western Conference Finals, and realize that, listen, if they had somehow gotten past Boston and they had beat Boston at Game 6, obviously Game 7 was competitive. If they had finished off Game 6, I don't know that they beat the Miami Heat after watching this. Do they beat the Miami Heat? Are they consistent enough to beat the Miami Heat? Did we just avoid the inevitable? And, Boston kind of put us out of misery a little bit earlier, and we would have been having the same conversation now as opposed to, 9 days ago. I don't know. It's just, for me, I'm looking for, I'm not angry anymore. I'm just looking for answers because I love basketball too much to just be like, I'm done. I don't want to watch that. I can't do that. Basketball is my heart and soul. I will never, ever, ever turn my back on the Philadelphia 76ers. As angry as they make me, as annoyed as I get with them, I'll never, ever do that. So for me, it's like, what now? What do we do now? They're looking for the coaches. You got Nick Nurse out there is a possibility. He's already been interviewed. They're going to interview Monty Williams. They're going to interview who else are going to interview? They're going to interview Sam Cassell. Yeah, a couple other candidates they'll probably get in there also. Mike D'Antoni, obviously, for if James Harden is returning. What's next? What makes the most sense? Because I don't want to Joel Embiid, talk about him for a second. I don't want to give up on him. I don't want to do it because, listen, the guy won the MVP for a reason. He's the best player in the regular season. We need him to be the best player in the postseason now. That's what we need out of him. We need him to be the best player in the postseason. Or I'm sorry, one of the best players in the postseason. I think one of the things that we've learned is I don't believe that Joel Embiid can ever be the primary option on a championship team. I just think the way you want him to play, he just can't be like, look. The way I look at it is this. I look at this team the way it should be built, like the early 2000s Lakers, where you had Shaq, and Shaq was that dominant force. But in the game, who do they go to? With Kobe. Because Kobe traditionally can break guy off the dribble, get his own shot. That's what you need with Joel Embiid. You need that guy. You need that Kobe. Is that Tyrese Maxey? Can he grow into that role? I mean, I kind of feel like he can. The only question is, will it be too late for Joel Embiid's prime? Because remember, Tyrese Maxey is he's 23, I believe. He's a baby. So asking him to do that next year, that's pretty much what you're asking him to do, is be that guy next year. And could he be? I don't know. Listen, Game 3 against the Nets, he did close that game. Harden gets kicked out, and they ran through Maxey. Maxey hit some big shots, and they made it happen. So, I've obviously talked a lot, so I'm going to let you jump in here. And what now? What now?
Well, I wish that I wasn't correct a few months ago when I said wake me up after the second round, and that's when I'll start caring about the Sixers. I let myself get suckered back into believing that this year was different, and that's my own fault because I knew that this year wasn't different, and I let myself get tricked into thinking that it was. The whole operation is shot. You got to either blow this up or we're going to just keep spinning our wheels in mud over and over and over again, and we won't get out of the second round. We haven't been out of the second round in 20 something years. We're talking multiple different ownership groups, multiple different GMs, multiple different head coaches, and other than Joel Embiid, who has been here as a real I don't know when we exactly drafted Korkmaz and Milton and all those, but I'm talking about guys that actually play a integral part on the team. How many of them have been here the entire process besides Embiid? There aren't any. So as long as Embiid is on this team, you will not get to where you need to be. And how many more years does he have left? He's going to be 30. How many more years of Embiid do you really think you have left? 3? 4 maybe tops. Maybe if you're lucky, 4.
I think 5.
Not MVP caliber Embiid, not 5. This guy right now that you saw, you will not see him in 2028. Not this way. I'm not saying he's going to be out of the league, but you're not going to see him playing like he's playing right now.
Yeah, but we don't need him to be MVP Embiid, and the reason why is because the way that here's the thing. Doc Rivers played a very specific style to make sure Embiid got touched enough to ramp those points per game up to 33 and get those numbers high enough and be the scoring leader and all of that. That type of style, as we have seen, does not work in the playoffs because Embiid has a hard time because what do they do in the playoffs? They're going to make things harder for you. They're going to limit your spots, and that's what teams did. The Nets, it was wild the way they were doing it, but the Nets bothered him. He didn't have a good series against the Nets. It didn't matter because your supporting cast was good enough to beat them. Against the Celtics, it mattered a lot. When they wanted to, they decided to. He could not get to those spots on the floor. The nail, as you know, the nail, elbow, whatever you want to call it, where he likes to operate, he couldn't get there. What you need from Joel Embiid is what I mean by 5 years. What you need from him is this. I need him to be productive for 5 years. Is he gonna? If I'm expecting him to average 33 at 33, no. Can he average 25? I think so. I think he can be 25 and 9 at 33 years old. And if you by that, if you pair him with who he should be with, a perimeter scorer, a guy who can get buckets in the perimeter whenever they want, then you got something. Because that's really what you need. You need to have that guy. Like one thing we have learned is that Embiid cannot be the primary scorer on a championship team. It doesn't work. You can't have, and I gave up on the argument. I said it for a very long time. I've always believed this. But when they started playing through Embiid and kind of making him do this, I was like, okay, let's see what happens. Well, guess what? I'm back to tell you, you cannot be a back to the basket guy and be the number one option down the stretch. It doesn't work. You got to have that guy out in front. Like I said, ally Kobe and Shaq. You got to have that guy that can break the defense down and get buckets from the perimeter. And is that Tyrese Maxey? I think it can be. It's just, will the timeline match up? I don't know.
Well, I'm not done with Embiid yet because he's a major issue and a major liability to this team now. Because I understand he's the reigning MVP, but we can't rely on you in the playoffs. We can't rely on you to be there healthy in the playoffs. I mean, he misses 1 week, and it looks like he hasn't worked out in 2 months. He has never in his entire career as a professional athlete been in truly elite shape, ever. He's never, ever been in truly elite shape.
I think he's definitely been in really good shape. I mean, it's just for big guys. Big guys are out of shape way faster than small guys.
Joker played 33 consecutive minutes yesterday. Will you ever in your entire life see Embiid play 33 consecutive minutes without him passing out, running foul line to foul line?
I don't think that's fair. And listen, let's
No,
not
no,
rewrite
no, no,
history. I saw Joker last year literally dying in the first round series with the Warriors. Literally, he looked like he was gonna. I thought he was gonna die.
and he
Like
this
Joker,
that last
yeah,
offseason he went and upped his conditioning
yeah,
and has
no
played
question.
arguably his best. But do you believe Embiid is actually going to do that?
I think I don't like. It's like you're putting me in a position where I have to defend him. And I really don't want to, but
Because
I
he's
know that
indefendable.
he's
Like
made
his
great strides.
actions are indefensible.
He's made
You
great
cannot
strides in
back
conditioning.
him up.
That's a fact. He's made great strides in his conditioning, and he has definitely listen. The injury stuff is valid. I can't push back against that. The guy is unreliable in the playoffs because he's always hurt. His conditioning, I got to push back because he's not some fat sloppy dude that's like struggling to get up and down the court. That's not fair.
I mean, but is he not struggling up down the court? I mean, I could sit here. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but if I went through and logged every one of his 60 some odd games this year, do you think more than 10 to 15 of those games, I find him extremely gassed and completely out of shape in the fourth quarter?
He was top 5 in clutch points in the fourth quarter this year.
Okay.
So like that doesn't and you can't average 33 points a game with not being productive in the fourth quarter.
But how many of those games? Like, I would love to know what his first half versus second half splits are.
I'm telling you that in fourth quarter.
Yeah, but I'm saying
he's top 5 in clutch points.
But how do you define what's the difference between clutch points and overall points?
Clutch points is
how do you differentiate what those two stats are?
Clutch points
is there a dramatic difference between those two numbers? I don't know. I'm asking out loud.
Clutch points is last 5 minutes of game within a bucket.
So what if he didn't score all fourth quarter and happens to hit the game-winning shot in the last 5 minutes?
I mean, I listen. That's we're sitting here playing hypothetical. I don't know the answer to that question.
So I think that stat that top 5 in the clutch points or whatever, that could be an extremely misleading stat without being able to dive
I don't see the narrative of Embiid's like sucking air, like running up and down the court. Like I don't agree. I think the injury thing is a thing. That's a valid thing. Listen, we go back all 5 years, he's had something going on with him. Also, it's a known fact. It's a known fact that big men, when they're out of action, it takes them longer to ramp back up. He's also a dude that was playing on, the LCL this year again, the knee. I think the biggest problem with not just the fact, listen, let's just call a spade a spade. Embiid and Harden quit.
My next point was going to be is he needs to improve mentally as a leader.
1000%. And like that's something where, like, do you like if I'm Daryl Morey, maybe you think about bringing a sports psychologist for him because I think
he already has one.
There's something. Does he? I don't. Maybe he needs another one because there's something about him.
Needs a new one.
There's something about him that, again, we brought it up on the show before that he's an emotional front runner. He is. He's an emotional front runner. There's something about him that just like when times get tough, he kind of checks out a little bit. Like it's really, really weird. Like you see it like where, when everything's going well, everything's going great. Like he's, got the hands up, he's revving up the crowd, all of that stuff. But it's like when things are not going well and things are not going the way he wants them to go, he shuts down and checks out. Like, not for nothing, game 4, P.A. Tucker gets in his ear and gets him back on track. He was checked out of that game. Sixers almost blew that game. They were down 5 with a minute to go. And, it wasn't for some heroics by Tucker getting that 3-point play and time that game back up and Harden hitting the big shot. I mean, obviously Embiid made the pass there, but that was Embiid checked back in. P.A. Tucker had to check him back in. And, you can't have that from your best player. Like, You want your best player to be the alpha. And, Embiid is supposed to be the best player on his team, but his personality doesn't reflect that. He's just not he doesn't have that warrior spirit. And I don't know if that's something you're just born with, right? Like, you go to guys like Jordan, Kobe, Tom Brady, and guys like that who have that warrior spirit. I don't know if it's something you just get. I don't know, because like I just think it shows to your competitive nature, and you're willing and willingness to compete. And you could tell when that third quarter. Listen, you're down 55-52 at halftime. Tobias Harris was within 30 seconds hits a three to tie the game. You're tied at 55 for a chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And when the wheels start to fall off, it was just like he just quit. And that can't happen. It just can't happen. And it's bad for optics with everybody else, because they're looking at, like, one thing he's failed to realize is that your body language is the body language of the entire team. They look at you.
Some of the worst body language I've seen.
No question.
Ever.
No question. He's
up there with Jay Cutler.
Yeah, they look at you and say, "Hey, like, let's see what Joe's doing." And you look at Joe's face, get the long mope. They're gonna long mope. They're gonna long mope with you.
Remember Doris Burke, 6-minute mark of Game 6.
Mm-hmm.
Basically yelling, "Why is Harden and Embiid just walking back?"
Yeah.
But I want to give credit real quick to Mike Sealski, because he's the one that said it. He had a theory on Embiid's behavior late in games and in the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, obviously I have no proof of this. He's like, it's just a theory that I have.
Okay.
And he goes, I thought of it during his speech where he's like quoting Giannis, but he's poking fun at Giannis while he's laughing. I forget exactly word for word what he said, but he's talking about that.
He's talking about the Giannis quote. Giannis said, there's no failures. There's just good days and bad days.
Yeah. And he goes, my thing about Embiid is, he goes, I don't think that Embiid, not that he doesn't care about a championship, but he's already won. He's won at life. He's won at life compared to what his life would have been if he stayed in Cameroon and not came over here and played basketball. He's won because he's a MVP. He's won because he's made generational wealth for his entire family. And that winning a championship to him won't necessarily change his outlook on how he feels about his career. He feels like he's already won.
Yeah, I mean, and you could make that argument for a lot of people, a lot of guys in the NBA. Giannis being one of them. Like, Giannis has a crazy story about how he got to the league too. Maybe not as crazy as Embiid's, but
the difference is that Giannis went out and used it to win a title. That's the difference.
Right.
Is that Embiid? Like, we may see the peak motivated Embiid.
Well, listen, is it for these guys, like, a deeper conversation? Is it for these guys the end all be all to win a championship? I don't think so, because how can it be the end all? How can you, like, listen? Everybody wants to win. You want to win, obviously, but listen. If I'm sitting on, it's kind of like this. Like, I'm sitting on, $10 million and my show is ranked 18th in the country, but I'm making $10 million a year. Am I really crying that I'm not number one? Is it really that big? Like, I'd like to be number one, but is it that big a deal I'm not number one?
I think it depends on, obviously it depends on the person. Like me personally, yes. I need that number one next to it, because yes, like, just to go off the example you gave, $10 million for 18. Well, what if it's like 60 million for one? Oh, I want that first. I want that 60.
Yeah, I guess you have to ask yourself, when's enough. But I think, but I
isn't.
You'd be happy.
For me, there isn't. There isn't.
I think if you were making $10 million a year, but your show was 18th, I think you'd be happy.
I would be happy, but
it's not like you wouldn't be trying to be. I think that's what these guys are. I think, like, these guys are
become
trying.
complacent.
Say again?
They're becoming complacent. All
Yeah,
right, I
I
don't
think
know what is on ESPN right now, but it is something to do about a former Flyers player apparently growing magic mushrooms. It's an
okay.
E60. I have no clue what is going on right
All
now,
right.
but it
It's
is.
120 on May 23rd. Sports drilling down. Let's talk mushrooms.
I mean, it's I don't know enough. At first, I thought it was Rod Brindamore. I don't really know enough about ex-Flyers from the '90s about how they look now to remember who every single one of them is. Let's see if they put his name on the screen.
It's probably Mikkel Renberg.
Riley Cote.
Riley Cote. I remember Riley Cote. I remember
He
him.
lost a lot of weight he's exploring the use of mushrooms in mental health treatment for athletes. He owns a magic mushroom farm out in Oregon.
There's been a discussion for years in the relationship to drugs and rehabilitation. Good for Riley.
I just didn't expect to look over at like you said, 1:20 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, and that's what I'm watching.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I want to be number one too, and like that, I would still be like saying, okay, well, how do we get here? But my life outside of that would be great. Like after I wouldn't be crying over the fact that I'm not number one if I'm sitting here making 10 mil. I think maybe there's some truth to that because listen, Joel Embiid's life, he had a very hard life, and if he did stay in Cameroon, what would happen? Loses his brother. Like, he now has, he take care of his mom, his dad. He take care of his kids, never going to know and want for anything. His kids are going to be rich. Like, it's a whole, so like, yeah, maybe there is some truth to that. I don't know, but that's still an excuse quitting.
The Mamba mentality has ruined how you can judge other athletes because you expect all of them to have that.
Right.
And that's what I want.
And also too,
that's what I want out of my superstars.
Kobe came from privilege. So, like, for him to have that was like, whoa. Like, wow.
And the thing is that it's easier for a role player to lack that, I believe. Because, I mean, we're not sitting here judging. I'm trying to think of a role player. We're not sitting here judging. I was going to say Seth Curry, but that's a bad example because of who his brother is. George Niang.
Mm-hmm.
We're not holding George Niang to the same standard we're holding Embiid to.
Of course not.
So I don't expect Niang to have the same mental build as I expect Embiid to. But you're an MVP.
Yeah.
5-time All-Star.
Right.
You need to have a different genetic makeup.
Although, again, we go back to my conversation I started us off. It's just that, like, we got to do something about these role players. What I want to do, though, I want to take a quick break.
We need to blow the entire bench.
And then on the other side, I'm going to turn it over to you and just say, well, I pose my question. What now?
I don't know.
And then we'll go back and forth for a little bit and see if we can figure this out together.
Sounds good.
Brad Memory Show, Marcus Brown, I'm Justin Emery, and I am here to talk to you guys about my friends at BetterHelp. Listen, if you're like me, your life and your week can be split into a multitude of directions. Like you are one person, but it can feel like you're being pulled a million different ways. You got the chores around the house you got to do. You got the kids, their schedules, they're playing sports. Son's playing soccer, daughter's playing basketball. You got to balance time between you and your wife. You got to balance time, to get everything you need to be done. Hey, it's getting nice outside. We'll make sure the porch is done. I got to power wash it. That calls stress. I got to make sure the lawn's good. That calls stress. Stress everywhere. And you're spending so much time on everyone else. But how much time are you spending on yourself? How do you balance the two? It's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else needs from you and never take a moment to think about what you need from yourself. When we spend all of our time giving, it can leave us feeling stretched thin and burned out. Therapy can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. It's super important for us to be able to take care of ourselves. It's super important for us to be able to do the right thing so we can be there for other people. Listen, what do they tell you all the time when you're in a plane? Put your oxygen on first because you need to take care of you so you can take care of everyone else. Well, I got a place you guys can go, and it's called BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give them a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Visit BetterHelp.com/Bremy today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Bremy. Again, BetterHelp.com/Bremy and get 10% off your first month. I think everyone needs to go to BetterHelp to talk about this alone. Everyone needs therapy.
They're entering a very dangerous place. And that place is that I'm starting to not be angry anymore. I'm becoming apathetic. And that's where I was with the Phillies for a while. And that's even worse than being angry about it.
Yeah, it's indifferent. Yeah. No, I understand. I get it. I mean, like I said, for me, like I love basketball too much to just turn my back on them. I want to try to figure this thing out, but it's hard because there's just so many unknowns. Like, listen, we're getting the reports that Harden's going to the Rockets. We have no idea. I think a lot of it probably is going to depend on who's coaching the Sixers, if he goes to the Rockets or not. We really don't know what that looks like and who the best case is. Out of the candidates so far, who is your favorite?
Probably Monty Williams. I don't want Mike D'Antoni at all. I don't want him at all. He's so far. Like, I'd much rather have you coach the Sixers than Mike D'Antoni.
I think I do a pretty good job.
I don't want anything to do with him at all whatsoever. So I would rank the number 1 Monty Williams, number 2 Nick Nurse probably, though he's a weirdo. He's a quirky guy.
Nick Nurse for me would be number 1 because tactical wise,
yeah,
he's the best guy that can get the best out of what they have here.
I agree.
I think he's a really good in-game coach, and he's really good. He's a really good system guy. But that weirdo part of it, like the reason why he's not the coach of the Raptors anymore, because he's just great on everyone's nerves. Like he's
he's just a strange guy. He's quirky. He's a quirky guy.
He wasn't well liked in that locker room at all. And I think you have to have that balance of being a guy that the players like, but someone that can manage strategies and that type of thing. So
he kind of reminds me of the basketball version of Chip Kelly.
Yeah, the Sam Cassell thing. I'm not like I know.
I don't want Sam Cassell because I don't want Sam Cassell here. Not because I don't think he deserves to be a head coach. I don't want him as the head coach here because he has been reflective and complicit in the last 3 failures with Doc Rivers.
I agree, and he's learning under Doc, so you think, listen, he's going to have some of his own things too. He's going to put in, but I just feel like it's not good to promote from within when you've had a coach you just fired. Like, let Sam Cassell be a coach. Like, let him go coach Phoenix. Like, go coach Toronto.
Well, I've heard that Tyronn Lue is going to try to make the move to Phoenix and leave Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
Smart man. We've talked about this before. I feel really bad for Tyronn Lue and the situation he's been in with the Clippers. And honestly, that would be a great move for Phoenix because Tyronn Lue is an incredible postseason coach. Like, he's a really good postseason coach.
I don't want Mike Budenholzer either.
I mean, what's crazy? The Sixers had a choice between Tyronn Lue and Doc Rivers 3 years ago. And honestly, Tyronn Lue would have made more sense. It's a shame. Listen, Brett Brown, he did. I mean, that was Elton Brand hire to hire Doc Rivers, but after that Brett Brown thing, I think they were just going for that guaranteed name. Like, Tyronn Lue was still kind of like, okay, well, he won with LeBron, but what exactly does that mean? But now you saw the job he's done with the Clippers and see that, okay, this guy's actually a really good coach.
Yeah.
So I wish kind of like they had gone that direction because I think – listen, Doc Rivers did a great job this year. However, we can't absolve him from the playoff run in a sense that Game 6, you're up by 2 with 4 minutes to go. Simple things like, how do you not get Embiid the ball and get him to the line and hit some free throws to win that game? How does he not touch the ball for the last 5 minutes? Like, that's coaching. You got it. Like, if your players aren't sitting on the floor, you got to eventually say, hey, guys, you see the big fella down there? Let's go get him the ball. Let's see if we can get him to the line. And not touching the ball, that's a Doc problem. That whole sequence in the third quarter and getting blown out like that, somebody's got to fall on the sword. So it's going to be him. And with Tyronn Lue, as good as he is strategically in the playoffs, he coaches circles around Joe Mazzulla. And also
Is
too.
he going to get fired?
Say again?
Is he going to get fired?
Lue?
Mazzulla.
Yes. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. And honestly, for Boston, this to me goes back to the Ime Udoka situation, which they handled so poorly.
I feel like
now they're paying the price for it.
Do you think Mazzulla's crushed his coaching career, or that people will just realize he's not built, not ready for prime time yet?
Yeah, I mean, what could end up happening to him is he could be a guy that he gets out of coaching, maybe takes a year off, gets on as assistant coach somewhere, and then maybe works his way back up, becomes the head coach 3 or 4 years, maybe. But you could tell he's not ready. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, when things start falling apart, he has no idea how to get it back. Like, what happened a couple nights ago down there?
Which is an even bigger indictment on Doc Rivers for not being able to outcoach him up 3-tail.
Yeah. No, for real.
Al Horford is older than Joe Mazzulla.
Right.
Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's just for this team, I guess it's just a situation where you're going to have to look and see, the free agents out there. They've got to get better role players. You have to. I'm looking at the list right now. It's Austin Reeves, the guy I would love to have here. Karis LeVert. I think Victor Oladipo was shot.
You need to redo. Let's see. So James Harden, I don't want him. Maxey, there's a starter.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the other starters that you started this year? Embiid, obviously.
Yeah. PJ
Tucker. I mean, he's like 39 though, so you're gonna have to replace him sooner rather than later.
Right.
And was their other starter for most of the year? Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris. His last year's deal, so this is the first year you'll probably have an option to trade him.
Yeah.
He's got to go because him and Embiid don't work together.
Well, you have to replace probably 60% of your starting lineup and 95% of your bench.
Yeah. Yep.
Because
George Niang's a free agent. I don't know what you want to do with him.
I don't need to see him anymore.
I agree.
Korkmaz, I don't need Korkmaz anymore.
And Milton's a free agent. He'll be gone. So you're gonna have slots to fill. It's just got to be smart about how you fill them. And that for me is going to tell the story of next year is who's coming in here to be that supporting cast. Who are those guys that's going to come support this mission? Because again, I go back to what I said earlier. As mad as we were when he said it, he was 1,000% right. It can't just be about Joe and James if they're back. We gotta get better supporting cast.
I mean, if you say you want to go 9 deep in your rotation, you need 3 starters and at minimum 3 bench players. So you really need 6 guys to fill out your rotation from where you're at right now.
Yeah,
I mean, this team isn't close. Like, they're not close. Like,
Steph Curry's a guy that I would keep an eye on. I mean, maybe coming. I know he loved it here. Now, listen, his father-in-law got fired, so I don't know if that's going to be salty with the wife. I don't know if I don't know how she feels, but obviously money talks. He's a guy I'd love to have back for more shooting. I think he played.
Who I wouldn't be surprised.
I think he played really well with Embiid. He was unfortunately a travesty to the Ben Simmons situation.
You know who I think might make a run at Seth? Golden State, to have him come off the bench.
Yeah, that's a great call. Honestly, a guy that they might consider trading for out there. You brought up Golden State, and a guy who may need a change of scenery is Jordan Poole. Tobias Harris would be an interesting proposition out there for them. He's like, listen, there's nothing wrong with Tobias Harris. Just so we know the money is just too much money for his input. But he's a guy kind of like an Iguodala that might have a spot out there on that squad the way they play basketball. And Jordan Poole is a guy that may have checked out due to everything that happened with the Draymond Green situation. And I think it's obvious the way Steph Curry is talking. Those guys are saying, hey, Draymond needs to be back on this team. Steve Kerr came out and said, we don't win championships without Draymond Green. So I think they're going to choose Draymond. If they do that, maybe the Warriors are interested in doing some business with Jordan Poole. And maybe you can throw something together to bring him in here. Because, he was really good for them 2 years ago.
Well, the first thing that needs to happen before you can make a move or act on this move is if Boston loses tonight.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown. Because what if he leaves, if the Celtics move off of him, that will create a much clearer picture across the rest of the NBA landscape.
Yeah, so he's restricted. So they're going to have a chance to match whatever from him.
But they might do a sign and trade with him. Whereas then you got to take a look at, well, Jordan Poole. Yeah. Could he be on the move then for that? Right. I have heard rumors of a 3-way trade involving Celtics, Knicks, Cavaliers with Brown, Brunson, and Donovan Mitchell being the centerpieces that move around. Now, I feel like
Donovan Mitchell wanted to be in New York, so
yeah, I feel like that might be just musical chairs, though.
Yeah,
like all three of those guys are very good. I don't know how much difference there are. Like, what is the difference between Jaylen Brown and Donovan Mitchell?
Jaylen Brown's a much better defender. Jaylen Brown's a really good two-way player. And honestly, like, we don't know with Jaylen. Like, I feel like with Donovan Mitchell, we've seen him go on those, 45, 50 and do all those things because he's had his own squad, so to speak. Where Jaylen Brown, he's only 24, 25. We haven't. I think there could be more there than we're actually seeing.
I feel like the upgrade between the three of them is very small, though. Like, if you would have, like, I would take any three of those on the Sixers. But I feel like upgrade, like if you have Brunson, why would you feel the need to upgrade to Brown or Mitchell?
Like I said with the Knicks have way too many left-handers. It's too much.
Yeah.
Between Brunson, Randall, and Barrett, it's too many left-handers on one team.
How does that make you feel saying that?
And Quigley's left-hander too.
How does it make you feel saying that as part of the left-handed legion?
It hurts. It hurts to say that, but you can't have that many lefties on one squad. It's too much. And some way, please tell Julius Randle, like, a fadeaway jump shot with 13 seconds on the shot clock is not a good shot. Like, I've never in my life seen a guy work so hard, take such difficult shots. Like, it's like he's playing a game of horse out there. But I don't know. It's for me, it's now it's May 23rd. So we got 2 months to kind of figure this out. Everything will kind of play out by the beginning of July, see what they're going to be, and then we'll see. We'll see the coach. I figured they'll probably have the coach within the next month. So we'll see.
Yeah, I need them to do what I needed the Eagles to do after they lost that playoff game. Not the Super Bowl,
Seattle.
the year before. The Tampa Bay. When they lost to Tampa Bay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I just need them to go away for a little bit and let me.
Yeah, I understand.
Let the what do they say? Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yep.
Yeah, I need them to be absent until about mid-October.
And that's fair. And listen, the one thing is going to have a fresh look with Doc not being there. That'll give a little bit of a facelift. So, listen, I'm gonna close with this. I think a lot of it relies on what will Tyrese Maxey be in the next couple of years. Like, is Tyrese Maxey an all-star, all-NBA player? Like, can he go to that level? And it's gonna be interesting to see. We've seen glimpses of it. It's can he put it together full time? Tyreek, there's a stat out there of him when he gets over 23 shots, he averages 29 points a game. So that's a great projection. Can he be that guy consistently? Can that last 2 minutes of Game 3 against the Nets? Can that be who he is? We'll see.
I'm very, very pessimistic about this situation.
I understand. It is what it is. It's not what it's not. So next time.
And the Phillies are going down.
I don't even want to even unpack that.
Exactly.
I don't want to talk about them in the least. I'm gonna give them time to get this figured out. We're getting close. We're getting Memorial Day weekend. We got to figure this out. But remember, they got hot in June last year. But
here's the thing, though, is that it's 1 year. It's one thing if your 5-year, $100 million player doesn't have a great year.
Yeah.
It's another thing when your 13-year, $329 million brand new shortstop doesn't even look like he deserves to be playing.
Especially after the way he played in that farce, the World Baseball Classic. So, you're not getting good starting pitching. Taijuan Walker has been an absolute disaster.
Oh, Taijuan Walker is a bum.
It's bad. It's bad out here.
They had back-to-back games the other day where they couldn't get their starter out of the first inning.
Yeah. So, listen, the nice thing about baseball is a marathon, is not a sprint.
How many days till training camp starts?
You're, 2 months? In July?
I'd say somewhere in the vicinity of 65-ish days, maybe.
In July, something like that. So we'll see.
I don't want to blink and the summer be over, but I need something good to talk about.
No, I hear you. It's been a rough stretch the last couple weeks.
Should we
after all the fortune we had come off the World Series, the Super Bowl, the excitement of going to playoffs has now gotten weird again. So
should I become a Flyers fan now that they've revamped the front office?
Keith Jones.
Yeah.
Listen, it's something different. You're giving it something different. Keith Jones has been around the game forever. You gotta think he knows a little bit. You hope that they can figure it out. Because listen, when the Flyers are good and there's playoff hockey around, it is fun. It's just that
thing about Keith Jones.
It can go away.
Keith Jones is national NBC, NHL commentator, color commentator.
Mm-hmm.
All of that. I just can't. And obviously, former player and all that. Knows hockey and everything.
Yeah.
Knows everybody in the sport. But at least for people around here for the last 20 years, they know him more for making fart jokes on the morning show with Angelo.
Yes.
So it's hard for me to sit there and say, no, this guy's going to turn the team around now.
That's fair. After looking at him tall, yeah, that's fair. But hey, we'll see what happens. Till next time, at Mark Tweeting everywhere. At
Justin Emery Show on the Bluebird app.
Brad Emery Pod everywhere. BradEmery.com for the merch. And until next time, you can be with us. You'll be against us. You're never going to stop us. Late.